All right, everybody, we're going to take a look at how to start an assembly. So first thing I did is I hit the plus button and I went to create an assembly, and it brought me to this page. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Insert, and I can choose the parts that I would like to add to my assembly. So for now, I'm going to add the case of this flashlight and the cap and the reflector. It's a check mark, and now all those things are placed. All right, you can notice that the cap and the reflector are not oriented the same way they would go into the flashlight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on each of these, and you don't have to do this, but it ends up helping quite a bit. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees so that it's pointing the direction that I want it to. And then I'm also going to do the same thing with the cap, or a similar thing, I should say. Go 90 degrees this way, and that should work pretty well. All right, so there's my cap and my reflector. So now if I want my reflector to go into here, I mean, I can click and drag in a way, all right, to get the idea, but that won't make it match up exactly. What I need to do is I need to use some of the assembly tools. Now for this cap, for the reflector, there's a couple things I could do. One is I could do just a fastened mate where it stays put exactly where I put it. I could also do a slider mate, and that will allow it to basically kind of slide in and out according to the way I want it to. So let's look at both of those. So if I do a fastened mate, then I'm going to choose. That's where it gets a little interesting. So I want to choose the back surface here. There we go. And then I would like that to line up with the very front surface here that I need to be careful to show. There we go. So I want that front surface right there. All right. So if I choose that fasten mate, you'll notice it locks right on there. Okay. Now sometimes it doesn't work the way you want it to, so you can change the direction, which is obviously not what I want to do. You can also add some offset to that. So you'll notice there's an axis here that's Z, and then there's X, and then the Y axis is out this direction. So if I want to maneuver this or move this reflector any of those directions, then I can do that with the offset. All right, so I'm going to hit check mark, and that thing is fastened. So those two now are together. So they will not separate from each other. All right, if I undo that, all right, and I choose instead, so now this will move. And the one thing I forgot to do is to fix the case in space. So I'm actually going to do that right now. So I'm going to right click on the case, and I'm going to choose fix. And what that does is it prevents it from moving, and that way I can put it wherever I want, or I can move the other parts, and that'll stay there. So I'm going to try a slider mate on this real quick. So to do a slider mate, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on that surface right there, and I want to mate it to the same surface right here. Okay. Now, as a slider mate, what happens is I can drag that forward and back. All right. Now, what I want to do is I might want to set some limits. So one of my limits is in the Z direction, which is out this way. This is the positive Z direction. So I want to say my maximum actually is 0. So if I put this as something positive, like 2, what would happen is it allows it to go this direction, which would be into the flashlight case, and I don't want it to be able to go into the flashlight case. So I'm actually going to set it as my maximum is 0. And then I could set my minimum as, say, I'll just use -1. And that's -1 inch. I'll hit check mark, and you'll see that what that does, it allows it to come out an inch from the case, but it won't go any further than right at the case. All right, so I can move that in and out. So that could be advantageous in a way for an assembly, so you can show kind of how it gets put together. All right, so there's that. Now, for the cap, we're going to do a different type because I want it to also be able to rotate because it's got a screw cap. So I'm going to choose a cylindrical mate. And you can see by the arrows in the icon that it shows that you can do both a twisting around, so like a rotation, and also a pull in and out like a slider mate. So I'm going to choose that one. And then I'm going to, what I want is, I want this surface right here to align with that surface right there. Okay, that's kind of my goal. And again, I want to set some limits. I have my Z direction here. I don't want it to go higher than 0 because 0 would be right at it. And then I'm not going to leave a minimum distance there for right now. So I hit check mark. All right, so I can move this cap out. I can move the reflector out. I can move the cap, but the cap will only go as far as the reflector, and then it'll push the reflector. All right, so that's the cool thing about setting that limit as 0. Okay, if I didn't do that, let me go back and edit. If I didn't set it that way, and I just got rid of that, all right, I'll hit check mark. Now the cap can go through everything, all right? But if I set that limit at 0, then the furthest it can go is onto the reflector. All right, that's the cool thing. And the reflector, the furthest it can go is onto the case. So that's great. All right, so then I have this, it also rotates. All right, and in a later video, I'll show you how you can get really fancy and use the screw relation in order for it to like screw on and screw off of the case itself.